far away. And I know this commission will study process and response a lot, but I also encourage you to talk to people, Nashvillians who were heavily impacted by the storm, so that they can share their lived experiences with you. My executive order asks this group to return initial findings within 6 months, but I encourage the commission to share key updates as soon as they're available. We need to move quickly on this work, not recklessly, but urgently. We found a lot of heroes in the storm. Our first responders, our second responders, the people helping people in every Nashville neighborhood, and I will say you all are joining as heroes of the response too, because the work you do here will save lives moving forward. Metro's job is to be prepared as possible, and thank you all for helping us achieve that. Governor Bresson, thank you again for your willingness to chair. I look forward to the work of this commission.
Mayor, thank you very much, and I'm honored to be asked to do this, as I know all of the people sitting here with me are, and thank you for doing this. I think it's a very smart thing to do at this point in this process. I'd like to begin by just some of us know each other, and some of us are meeting. Maybe go around and have the commission members introduce themselves. I'd be very interested as you do that. Any thoughts you might have on things you particularly would like the commission to take a look at, so I have a sense of what things maybe are important to you in that process. May I start with you?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Ethan Link, and I'm here, especially to try to represent transparency and empathy. I want us to. I think that's what the commission owes people in Nashville, is transparency and data, but also empathy. And as the mayor pointed out, the real lived stories of folks who experienced this, disaster. I think we have a lot of. I'd like to learn lessons from other cities. But also the lessons that we know were learned on the front lines from first responders, from linemen, from relief workers, both public and nonprofit. There's a lot of wisdom that could be gleaned from talking to folks who were on the ground every day. So I'm very excited to have that conversation. Also think we have lessons to learn about language access. I'd love for us to dig into that, how we're making sure to get all of the information out to everybody in our community, and also the resiliency of the grid. We've got a lot of lessons we could learn from other cities, and I think that's something that will be a powerful part of our work to explore. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Thank you.
Ethan, could you describe to people what it is you do?
Yeah, I'm a labor representative. I represent folks that do all variety of work, construction as well as service work, and have done that for about 15 years, and very proud to represent members out here that are frequently in the power and energy space, particularly working in power plants.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, and welcome, members. I'm proud to be serving with you. I'm Vice Mayor Angie Henderson. In my capacity as Vice Mayor, I serve as President of the Metro Council. I served for 2 terms as a district council member, and in that time of service, we had quite a lot of natural disasters. Tornadoes, derechos, floods. I think storm response and how the city goes about that, communication and otherwise, is very much top of mind for the council members that I serve and support. And so I know that Pro Tem Porterfield and myself will have a lot of thoughts in that space and wanting to make sure that elected officials have the information that they need to communicate with their constituents, as often those constituents come first to us, and or they wait to come to us, and at the point that they are engaged with us, they are very much in a position of high level of concern and really even in panic. And so that puts elected officials in a very awkward position, as wanting to serve and support and share accurate information. So I think the communication piece is something that's particularly important to me. And so, and just bringing that perspective of a district council member and elected official. So, thank you.
And what district do you represent, please?
I no longer represent a district, so I'm elected countywide.
I got you. Okay.
But I did
Well,
serve.
I should have phrased it different. What
South-
district did you represent?
Southwest Nashville, District 34.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Delicia Porterfield. I use she, her pronouns. I am a council member at large, so I represent all of Nashville and Davidson County. I previously served one term as the District 29 councilwoman in Southeast Nashville. Now I serve as the president pro tem of the council. So we love Vice Mayor Henderson, and we want her to be here. But if something were to happen to Vice Mayor Henderson, then I would serve as the vice mayor of the city as president pro tem. I served as 2 terms as our city's budget chair, passing the $3.28 billion budget, followed by the $3.8 billion budget. So I'm very familiar with what it looks like to invest in our departments. I also serve on the audit committee currently with Vice Mayor Henderson as well. So do bring that experience of deeply looking into our departments and the work that our departments do. Some of the things that are of particular concern to me, and Ethan and Vice Mayor both highlighted several things that are of concern to me, so I don't want to be too redundant, but really just bringing forth the lived experiences of our residents and how they actually experienced this storm. As Vice Mayor said, when things are happening on the ground, council members are on the front line, so to the extent that people think that I work for NES because of how much I'm updated and posting on social media, so we want to make sure that we have accurate information so that we can reach our constituents. People are looking to us for answers, so we want to make sure that we have that accurate information. I'm particularly interested in making sure that we're talking about how this impacts all of our residents, but especially residents that may need a little more support. So for example, our individuals with disabilities, we've heard a lot from individuals in that community about how the loss of power had an impact on them, as well as the lack of language access for individuals in our immigrant community. So I think that those are things that we really need to look at. I'm particularly interested in, as someone on the Budget and Finance Committee, what type of investments do we need on top of the investments that we're already making within our departments? What type of investments do we need to focus in on to make sure that our departments have the resources that they need? Also, as far as the communications, what does it look like to communicate with over 700,000 people in an emergency when many of those people are lacking internet access or lacking power? If your cell phone's dead, how do you communicate with someone? So what does it look like to make sure that we're getting that information out to people? And then lastly, it's really important to me that we are as transparent as possible with our residents. Residents want accountability, and I think before there can be any accountability, we have to have a really good understanding of what happened, what went well, what went wrong, and then from there can be conversations about what accountability looks like. But I think that it's important that we really dig deep first to figure out what exactly happened here.
Yes, I'm Beth Harwell. I formerly served in the Tennessee General Assembly as the Speaker of the House for 8 years, and I've also served on the Tennessee Valley Authority Board of Directors. I'm honored to be a part of this, and I commend the mayor and all of us for putting forth the energy to meet and learn a little bit more. I guess I'm interested in what I hear a lot from the area that I live in is just how money is appropriated in NES and how money is being spent, and is that money being spent wisely? I think that's something this committee needs to look at. I also think that I personally need a little bit of clarification, and I'll look to the chairman, but if we issue a report or recommendation, is this report or recommendation, are the recommendations going to the mayor, the council, or the board? And I'm a little confused as to really our overall objective, and so maybe the staff can answer that at some point. And then also I think before we even begin, we really probably should ask the staff for a corrective action plan, because I think they are in a position to bring that to us first for our review. So I would like for the staff to bring forth a correction action plan if they've not already completed one. And so those things are important to me. Overall, I think this is an important opportunity for our city to prepare, and that's exactly what I hope we can do.
I might add, Kendra, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a commission which was organized, or a task force, or whatever it technically is, organized by the mayor. So I think that technically our report goes to the mayor, although it will be a public report and therefore is available to the council and to anyone else for their use in terms of doing it. What I'm hoping to come out of this is something that's very, very constructive, as opposed to trying to point fingers and blame and so on. I think based on who all's on this commission, we have a good chance of doing that.
Well, one last question then on that. If there are recommendations that some of us feel strongly about, but they don't receive a consensus here, can there be minority recommendations?
Let's maybe talk about that a little
Okay.
more if we get to that point.
Okay.
I would sure like us to get to the point where we can speak as a commission.
Good morning. My name is Cassandra Easley. I am glad to be a part of this commission that was formed by the mayor and, of course, longtime associate and friend, the former governor, Mayor Bredesen. I can tell you from the onset that we have a great commission team here, and I think we're going to do a lot of great things. I am very definitely interested in the way crisis communications is concerned. I think when there's a crisis, communication is very, very important. As a second generation media person, journalist, I've worked with WSMV, I've managed TV stations, and definitely been in the industry over 40 years. So with United Press International, NBC affiliate, Fox affiliate. So I'm going to look at things from a media standpoint as far as media relations. How do we handle that? As far as communications is concerned, how are we dealing with the communications standpoint of it as it relates to the community? How is it getting out? And as a journalist myself, I think it's very, very important that as all journalists, we do a lot of research, we do a lot of investigating, and I think that's very, very important. So I'm going to have my journalist head on at all times, but also understand how the communication was set up, because if there was any breakdown in communications, not trying to point any fingers, then we need to look at those things. How is the communication within the organization, NES, and how is it outside of NES? So, and getting out to the community, because I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard. But that's what my main focus is, and plus I'll probably be joining in with everyone else to look at some of the things that's happening within NES and see what we can do to make things better. But at this point now, we're at a beginning stage, and without making any kind of rash judgments, I think it's important that we all learn from what we can do better. So that is my stance on that, and I appreciate being a part of the team. Thank you.
All right, my name is Phil Bredesen. I was the mayor in the 90s and then governor in the aughts. And in particular was mayor during the 1994 ice storm that there may be some people in here who remember. Although I think this one was worse, although both were very difficult. And then as governor had a number of, it's a little different situation, but had a number of different emergencies. One in particular that's not well remembered, I don't think, is when the Hurricane Katrina hit. We were inundated with people who were leaving Louisiana and coming to other places because they'd lost their homes and so on, and actually put a lot of strain on resources. After that, we did a formal process somewhat like this, and I found it very, very helpful and useful. We got some really good information out of it. And I think that experience was the reason why when the mayor called, I was very happy to do something I've not been doing, which is sticking my toes back into these waters again. But I look forward to working with you all. I think this is, from what I've seen, a great commission, and there's a lot of different skill sets here. I think we'll do a good job for the mayor.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Johnny Vanderpool. I serve as the Senior Director for the Office of Emergency Management for Vanderbilt University. So it's an honor to be here with everybody here today. I think some of the areas that I really want to, hopefully the commission can focus on, I'd like to see talk a little bit about what we call the disaster life cycle. So talking about what mitigation efforts have the city's gone through, and whether it's OEM or whether it's NES. What preparedness efforts, I'd like to get a little bit into that and see what those plans are and see how they played out, and what we're doing as a community and as a city to prepare for future winter events. and then a little bit into the response, and now we're into recovery. So I'd like to sort of, hopefully we can get into all those pieces. I look forward, I hear a very similar theme, communication. You know, in the real estate world, they talk about location, 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 but in emergency management, it's really about communication, right? If you can communicate, you've sort of won about half the battle. So that brings some more transparency. I feel like this is a great commission. We got a lot of great experience, and I look forward to being part of the team. Thank you.
Hello and good morning. My name is Timothy Hughes. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I currently serve as the president of the Nashville branch of the NAACP, and I want to thank the chair and all of the members here assembled for the work that we are preparing to do as a commission. As the governor was giving his remarks and he was talking about Hurricane Katrina, I thought about the fact as a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who was here after Hurricane Katrina, and how the city embraced us and welcomed us. I was just so grateful that you made mention of that as a point of consideration. And so thank you, Mr. Governor, for the work that was done to welcome so many to our city. In addition to the work that I do as president of the Nashville branch of the NAACP, I also have a concern about and am very interested in making sure that we are coordinating with all of our local organizations. I'm a community organizer by trade, and so a lot of the work and a lot of the perspective that I will bring to the work of this commission is around how it is that our organizations can better coordinate, how we can better communicate to provide resources and resiliency to the community members. And so I was thankful and grateful for the opportunity to be invited to serve in this capacity. Just a couple things. I would be remiss if I did not honor and acknowledge the fact that we're in 100 years of Black History Month this month. So thank you and happy anniversary to all who celebrate. Today is also the 156th birthday of one W.E.B. Du Bois, who is a graduate of Fisk University, my alma mater, and also a co-founder of the NAACP. And I think that what he would say in this moment, as we're looking back over the history of what has led us here, is that many of these disasters and challenges that we face are not new disasters, but we are seeing now the impacts of climate change, the impacts of marginalization, critical issues that have been long lingering in our community. And I so hope that we, as a commission, can give light to those concerns and those issues as they have impacted certain communities, but certainly the North Nashville community where the Nashville branch resides. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And one member of this commission could not be here today, Daryl Gillespie. Kendra, could you perhaps give a brief background for people as to who Daryl is? And
Absolutely, Chair. So Derek Gillespie is General Manager and CEO of a neighboring utility, local power company outside of Dixon. And so we're really excited to bring his expertise to this commission as well. He's traveling in D.C. and he sent me some notes in advance that I'd be glad to share with the commission after today's meeting.
Thank you. And at this point, if you could stay there, Kendra, could I ask you to talk a little bit? Kendra will be, by the way, our point of contact with the mayor's office. She's been designated by the mayor to work with this to work with this commission, and I'd like to give you an opportunity to describe what it is you'd like us to do.
Absolutely, thank you. And I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to work with you all. For better or for worse, these types of topics are of great interest to me, and I've worked on them throughout my career. And so very impressed by the expertise that we have on this commission. And obviously, we have a very important and robust scope of work in advance of us. I'll direct you all, commission members, to a printout of Mayor O'Connell's Executive Order 58 in front of you. We'll talk through that. I imagine you've seen it before, but feel free to reference that as we talk through some high points. We won't go over that line by line, but want to touch on, again, the really important components of this. And so we already heard Mayor O'Connell and Governor Bredesen talk a lot about, and each of you all as well during your introductions talk a lot about what we'll be doing as a commission together. But wanted to share with you again what's stated explicitly within that language of the executive order. So really focusing this on two key areas. One is Nashville Electric Service, our local power company here and partners, and then also Metro government's preparation and response to this storm. As our chair mentioned earlier, this is a wonderful learning opportunity for us, and we'll be coming together to really understand what happened, what kind of planning we do in advance, how well we responded to the emergency, and then where there might be opportunities to improve and make ourselves better as a city moving forward. There are two deliverables that are really discussed within that executive order. I think it would be up to this group to talk about what additional items it might want to create, or whether or not those are items that are nested within some of those deliverables. But the first is issuing initial findings, and those go to the mayor and Metro Council. However, we could also discuss making sure that they get in front of other bodies as well within 6 months from the date of today, and so that would be August 28th, 2026 is when that initial findings report would be due. Now, if we are very productive as a group and you all feel your work product is ready, it could certainly go to those bodies in advance. And then the second is a final report, again, of findings and recommendations within 1 year of today of our first meeting, and that's February 23rd, 2027. Again, like the initial findings report, if that report is ready in advance of then, it could move forward sooner. I think to put a finer point on things, really focused today on transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement, and again, what we can learn. And there's a variety of materials that I know we'll be creating after today's meetings to really shape and scope our work moving forward. A few notes about what we'll be doing with materials. We'll be placing materials on the web. I'll just note, since I know that communicating in multiple languages is really important to this group, as you all shared earlier. We do have a translate function on our website, and then when we do have PDFs that we'll be sharing, we will take steps to translate those as well and offer those in multiple languages on our website. I'll quickly turn it over to our legal team, something that's really important to us as a city, but also regulation that we're bound by is the Tennessee Open Meetings Act. And so they'll discuss a little bit about how that applies to this body's work today and moving forward. I'd like to introduce Hannah Zeitlin and Justin Marsh. They will be our attorneys supporting this commission as well from our law team.
Hi, and thank you. I'm going to give a brief overview of the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, what it means for this commission and the commissioners. So the Tennessee Open Meetings Act generally requires that government business be conducted publicly in the interest of transparency. So because of that, this commission can only conduct business in an open meeting. An open meeting is one that is open to the public, held in person, publicly noticed. Agendas are posted publicly, made available online in Metro, and minutes of the meeting are taken and available publicly. Members cannot deliberate on commission business outside of an open meeting. Also keep in mind that members may talk to staff and ask staff questions. You can discuss any questions you'd like with staff, but the staff cannot be a conduit for conversations that could not otherwise take place outside of an open meeting. And then also wanted to touch on the public comment period, which I believe is coming up on the agenda. So a few years ago, the Open Meetings Act was amended to require a public comment period at open meetings where there are actionable items on the agenda. Public comments must be germane to agenda topics, and the body, this governing body, may impose reasonable restrictions on that public comment period. So here the staff is recommending a public comment period where members of the public can sign up in advance and be allowed 2 minutes to speak per person. The public comment period would then be a total of 10 minutes. We would consider these reasonable limitations under the Tennessee Open Meetings Act.
Could you explain perhaps a little more about, we have people around here who go to dinner and go to breakfast and meet in the hallways and this kind of stuff, as to what is forbidden and what is permitted in terms of contact outside of this formal process?
Sure. Chance meetings are considered okay under the Open Meetings Act, but just because you run into somebody at the grocery store doesn't mean that you should start talking about the commission business. So if you do see someone outside just do not deliberate about this commission's business, and you should be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, I remember there being differences, and again, my knowledge is now a decade and a half old, but there being differences between deliberation and information sharing. Can you, is that a distinction that still exists?
Yes, I would say deliberation is more discussion in order to get to some sort of decision. So if there's something before this commission, your scope is mostly this report. So anything that you would discuss that would be of public interest in discussion and coming up with that report would be something that would need to happen at a publicly noticed open meeting.
But I could call someone to get some information from them?
We would recommend that you call staff for information.
Okay. Right. Well, I guess we need to be careful about that in terms of doing it. And I think the intention is clearly to try to conduct business, in this forum, in this format, and so on. So if there are opportunities to talk offline and so on, let's just be very careful about that and not do anything that could be considered as deliberations toward some sort of event. And if we have questions, I guess we can contact you.
Yes, absolutely. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Hannah Zeitlin, or Justin Marsh.
Okay. And Kendra, could you make sure that all the commission members have emails and phone contacts for the legal department, for you, for anyone else that they require?
Yes, I actually have a contact list that for everyone on the commission that I'll be distributing to you all, including our legal team. Just to add a couple of things I'd like to add before we move on with the actual business. Number one, everybody up here are people who have been involved with and thought a lot about government and the like. I think it's, and everybody probably already has ideas about what works and what doesn't work, or what worked and what didn't work, and so on. I think it's really important with these commissions to do like I guess a good doctor would, which is to be very careful about diagnosing what the problem is before we start talking about solutions. So I'm hoping we can spend our early days just really without trying to say what's the answer to this. Here's what worked, here's what didn't work, and then when we have a diagnosis of what doesn't work, I think we can have intelligent conversations about recommendations for changes to do things. I found in business, when there's a problem, usually the first thing people talk about is how to reorganize, and it's usually the last thing that ought to be talked about in that process. I would like us to really try hard to be very constructive. For everyone involved in this response, this is something that happens at this level, once in a generation. I mean, it was 32 years ago that the last big ice storm hit the city, and so it's a lot of things get forgotten in that time, and when you go that long without these kinds of things happen, it's easy to push it down a little bit in your consideration. And what we're trying to do is to be constructive, and I hope everyone will approach it in that vein. And the last thing I would say is just the way, and I'm certainly open to suggestions from others. The way I think these work best are to spend our early time just building up information, hearing from the different people been involved, and taking some careful notes on that, and just trying to get a sense of it. It's like reading a few books on the subject before you start pronouncing on it. And so, with the agreement of the commission, I think we'd like to make sure that we spend those early meetings, that early time, just trying to hear from people and get their perspectives on things. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't question them sharply about things as we go on, but just trying to be constructive in that fashion. As was remarked, we are required to have, and even if not required, should have a public comment period. And the proposal was to
open up the possibility of someone speaking to the commission by having them register, giving them 2 minutes to speak, and we can put a time limit on that for the commission meetings as well. But I want to make sure that anyone from the public who wants to be heard has that opportunity. I guess the first business of the commission is that if we adopt the notion of saying we're going to have a public comment period, we're going to decide when we do the agenda how long that takes. So we will allow members of the public to speak for 2 minutes, and we would ask them to register in advance of that so we knew what we had and we're dealing with as a policy of the commission. Since we're not being too strict about Robert Rules of Order, let me just put that on the table as a thought, and we'll go from there. Yes, I'm sorry.
Chair, I wanted to ask what sign up in advance will mean. And so I want to make sure that across Metro government that we have kind of continuity and clarity. And so for the council, our sign up in advance is in person in a window between 5 and 6 for a meeting that starts at 6:30. We have 20 minutes of public comment, 2 minutes max. And because state law requires that people speaking on items on the agenda must be balanced relative to others, pro, con, and so forth, staff needs a little time to work with that sign up. And that's why we have some time between the end of 6 o'clock sign up and the 6:30 meeting start. So I'm not suggesting we need that much time. But I would say for access, I would encourage the body to consider that sign up is in person. Because the complexity that is created by kind of online sign up and so forth, and people feeling that they, because even if you cared about this topic, you were to show up within a certain window of time and you did not achieve the sign up, at least you are still here participating, engaged, and can listen. I know that is sometimes a burden for folks to have to come to the place, but if you wanted to comment at the place, so sign up ahead. I want to be very specific about what that means, and as well, I would offer as well for our standing committees of the council. We have 8 minutes, I believe, 2 minutes, typically 4 to 5 commenters. So perhaps somewhere in the middle between a committee and a big meeting.
And at the council, is it first come, first served on the sign up?
Yes, sir, it is.
Other thoughts on that? This is all new to me. Yes.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chair. I am curious about whether it might also be possible for us to receive comment in submitted form. If there might be individuals, for instance, who are unable to make our meetings, but have been specifically or directly affected by what we will be discussing during the meeting, if it might be possible for them to send in some sort of comment via email, perhaps even if it is relevant for it to be presented. If there are a number of issues that come up repeatedly, we could address it either as a concern or as a conversation within the commission. I only raise it because there are some instances where members of my organization may not be available during the day during a meeting, but would have been directly affected and would like to comment in some capacity.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the commission can absolutely take written comment, emails, things like that. I think it'd just be a question for how staff wants to compile that and present it to the commission.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. I want to echo what Commissioner Hughes stated. As far as accessibility for working people, a lot of people are at work right now and they can't get off of work to come to a meeting like this, but they may have been severely impacted and they want to have access. So with the council sign up period, as Vice Mayor stated, people sign up, we prioritize it based on the agenda item. So we do, and then like Vice Mayor said, we do balance out between the pros and the cons to make sure that we can hear from as many people as possible on both sides of the issues. But if someone is not able to be there, they can always email the group. My recommendation or my ask for staff would be to save our inboxes a little bit. Maybe if there's like an email address that's created for this commission where all emails could be directed to one email account and then maybe distributed to us whether that's through some type of document, but if there could be some type of compilation of those emails that is then presented to the commission, I think that would be very helpful. Also, since we're talking about language access, we do try to have interpreters available. So if someone is here that wants to speak, but they need an interpreter, it would be great if we have some type of way to do that. And I want to acknowledge that that's hard when you don't know if you're going to have someone that needs that. So we want to be careful with our resources, but we also need to figure out how we can have access for people who need that language access, maybe a number that they can call and an interpreter can interpret on the spot, whatever. I don't know the solution to that, but I just want to put it out there. And then if I could just add one more thing, Chair, from our first set of comments, there was one thing that I left off. If I could just add to it about something that I think we should think about. What does it look like for resources for families from a lower socioeconomic status? So the city did provide a lot of resources, but if people don't know that those resources are available, you have people who couldn't afford to go to a hotel or people who couldn't afford certain things. And I think that to Commissioner Hughes' point, there were a lot of nonprofits and community organizations on the ground that were distributing generators. But if we could kind of maybe streamline that process, and also what does it look like to make sure that the community has the information that they need for their own preparedness? So one thing that we saw were places that were not necessarily assisted living facilities, but places where senior citizens were living and the power goes out, and if that entity does not own a generator, now they have multiple senior citizens in one place without a generator access. So at some point there is the responsibility of the community, but there's also personal responsibility, and we have to make sure that businesses and individuals know what they need in order to be prepared. So I think one of the recommendations that we may want to look at when we're looking at what the city can do better, I think one thing that we may want to consider is how we can empower our residents so that they have the information that they need to be prepared for the next generation.
Kendra, does the city have access to interpreters for these meetings?
We'll look into that, but we should be able to create access.
For the more common languages.
Yes. Yes.
And then one last question with regard to the Metro Council's policies seem like a good place to use as a starting place for what we're talking about here. When you have some sort of a subcommittee meeting, do you require that the comments pertain to the issue of the meeting? So if someone came, if we're spending a day talking about it in the fire department, if someone comes in here and wants to talk about NES, we just say that's another meeting.
So because, if I make sure.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
the head acknowledges right now. For committee in particular, because it's more limited, in the main meeting, it is a general public comment. State law does require us to prioritize. So if there were a whole lot of people signing up about something that was specific to the agenda, we're very clear that that will be prioritized. For the more limited standing committees, we only have one subcommittee, but that is particular to the agenda. That is not general comment. If I may, as long as I have the floor at this moment, I want to concur with Mr. Hughes. I already had that in my notes. I think it is very important that Metro establish what, Winter Storm Response Commission at Nashville.gov, maybe a little bit shorter than that. I think it is kind of confusing for citizens to see a roster with Mr. Hughes' email, your email, Ms. Harwell's email, my.gov, and for a citizen to feel like, well, to communicate with these folks, I have to enter 9 different email addresses. It's just an unnecessary hurdle, and I think it's helpful to staff because then it aggregates the community response and lowers the burden for folks who cannot come in person. I would not say that we can not do online sign up, but I think having a place to land on a Nashville.gov website that explains the process very clearly We do that on our Metro Council website, and the way that we address language access for general public comment is to say, if you need assistance, please call this number, so that if someone did want to come in person, that could be arranged. So that is required ahead of time. Kind of not the expectation that one would show up here and that service would be on offer.
And to the legal team, if we adopted a policy like the Metro Council of, in order to comment, you need to show up in person, that people are accepted in the order in which they arrive, and if there are more people than we have time available, we can prioritize within that as to things they have to do with the agenda. Is all that legit?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I would recommend too, maybe that the rule makes clear that all comments are germane to this commission, and that maybe it's prioritized that it's germane to the agenda.
Okay. Other thoughts on this? Yeah.
Quick question. I don't know if we're getting to this point yet, but all of these ideas are good, and I think what Mr. Hughes has stated and also the others have stated is very well needed. How are we going to look at making sure that this information is reached to the public? Are we going to have it on NECAT? Are we going to have it on our government access channel? Are we going to make sure the media has this information? Because public comments, once again, communication. Public comments, if we want these things and we want people to be involved in the community, I think it's going to be equally important that we make sure that we get the information out. The same way as what we're looking to try to do for the future of this crisis situation that may happen in the future. So I didn't know if we had even any ideas on that, or if we're going to look into something like that.
Kendra, what were you planning in that regard?
So a couple of options. Today, our meeting is being live streamed and recorded via MNN. They have a YouTube page, so there's a lot of ways that information can be viewed real time by the public, but also shared afterwards. We are required and already have a commission webpage that lists our future meetings. Obviously, right now it just has today's meeting because we haven't decided on our future meeting cadence. But we can also link to those recorded meetings on that page as well. And then in the same way that we utilize the mayor's office communications team to announce this commission, we can also look at appropriate ways to use them. I want to make sure that this commission feels comfortable with that, but we can look at utilizing Metro communication resources to also help amplify content. And then I think another thing to consider as commission members is ways that you all can help share content as well. And then obviously we've got a lot of great media partners here covering today's meeting.
And is there a cable TV channel, for lack of a better description, which is used to record Metro meetings and make available on the websites? Mm-hmm. And is it intended that be used for these commissions meetings?
Yeah, we'll have MNN recording all of our meetings.
Okay, so at the level of it's a public meeting, first of all, mm-hmm. and second of all, there will always be a record of that meeting available on the website.
Correct.
Okay, and then beyond that, if we have additional things to communicate, we can discuss using the facilities of Metro government as
absolutely.
An agency. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chair. Our public meetings that are streamed on MNN are also on YouTube.com, so anyone can go to YouTube.com at Metro Nashville, and you can see these public meetings live as they're happening, as well as you can go back and watch them after the fact. The other thing that I just wanted to add for the sign-up sheet, I would recommend that we have a space for the topic, because that is how we can figure out if what they want to speak on is germane to the agenda. So for the example that you gave, if someone wanted to speak on let's say someone wanted to speak on NES, but today's topic is fire. Anyone who is speaking on fire will be prioritized on that agenda, but then if there's time left, then we're able to then take someone else who wants to speak specifically on something that is germane to the work of this commission. So just being really clear that this is not opportunity to speak on anything with Metro government. This is specifically for the work of the commission. And then lastly, what we typically do and what I would recommend is if we have a window of time, typically if that's a 10-minute window, not everyone uses all their time. So once we get to the fifth speaker, there may still be 45 seconds left, in which case we start taking people that are on kind of the wait list, so to speak, the next person that is in line, that if there's still time left, we try to acknowledge who else is still in line.
Beth, I would like to ask you, is there any usefulness in some way communicating with members of the governor and members of the legislature about what we're doing?
I think that would be extremely valuable. And I would go through the leadership in both the House and Senate and let them know.
Okay. So are there going to be minutes taken in these meetings aside from the video?
Yes, Chloe over here is taking wonderful notes for us, and we will be producing minutes afterwards and posting those.
All right. Other comments on this? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I did want to say, as it relates to a unified email, when folks email the council, so council members at nashville.gov, that is every member of council plus myself, a few members of staff. For the planning commission at nashville.gov, that, as I understand it, does not go individually to planning commission members, but rather is aggregated by staff into a SharePoint. Might suggest the latter, rather than, because we have a number of citizen volunteers. Ms. Porterfield and myself are very much used to having to kind of manage our inbox and the massive volume of communication that we get, but that's a big ask for you all as citizen volunteers. So I would maybe suggest the Planning Commission approach, that there is a unified email. For transparency, it is aggregated into what Metro typically uses, something called a SharePoint, that would be on the commission webpage, so that if one would want to see how is the community engaging about this, they could go, and that's aggregated into one place.
And is there also consideration for, I mean, I certainly don't want to get a gazillion emails from people I don't know who they are, but a consolidated transmission from the mayor's office, maybe that's just all of those packages, so I could read them if I wanted to, might be helpful.
Yes, Chair. I mean, I think I don't know. Ms. Zeitlin might be able to speak what they do for the Planning Commission in particular. That might be helpful. If
And I'm not super familiar with how staff aggregates it, but I believe it is like one PDF for the comments. They may go item by item, but this commission I think will function probably a little differently, so it might help to just have one package of the emails received prior to, your meeting, something like that.
Right. Any other thoughts here? Okay, let's take this in two tranches. The first is comments from the outside, and I think what we've kind of landed on is the notion of let's have an email address which people can use. Let's have a mailing address for someone who doesn't utilize email or is not comfortable with that. Those are collected. They're assembled into a single PDF with any sort of summaries that the mayor's office feels are appropriate, and that those are provided to us in advance of the relevant meeting, so we have the comments from the outside. Anything you would add to that process? Okay, then let's just say all those in favor of adopting that approach, say aye or raise your hand or something. Okay, anyone opposed? Say okay, we'll plan on going ahead that way. In terms of the actual presentations in a public meeting, the suggestion was to have people show up in advance of the meeting and sign up. That way they're guaranteed to be there. We can take a first prioritize first in for the process. Allow 2 minutes per comment with a number which I think we said, did we say 20 minutes?
We said 10 minutes for today's meeting, but I think that's up for this body's discussion.
Right. Well, we said 10 minutes for today's meeting, but let's say for the time being a maximum of 20 minutes and see how that works. Any problems with that? You have problems with that? Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was going to say, by way of comparison, council has often a 100-item agenda for which we have 20 minutes. And so certainly want to be open, transparent, allow a lot of citizen engagement, but I would ask us potentially to balance it against, so we have a 3, 4, 5-hour meeting, 20 minutes of public comment. Of course, we have public hearings for other items that require a public hearing. But if this meeting keeps up with, I don't know if we'll just be 2 hours to start with this first meeting, or if we'll be an hour and a half subsequently, or an hour. 20 minutes. I might suggest maybe we keep with the 10 minutes, and then if we see we continue to have a wait list, we might choose to amend it subsequently, but I think 10 minutes might cover it, given that we're going to establish the email address.
I agree to the 10 minutes in the beginning, but I think with a lot of the community feeling the way that they are feeling at this point, it is still fresh on a lot of individuals' minds that they feel like what happened, these are my concerns, and one of the things that I have come to find out is that you have to let people vent their concerns. And 10 minutes, if that's the majority rule, then I'll go with that. But I honestly believe that people should have the opportunity and chance to say what their frustrations are, because a lot of things that we may not even know what they're going through. Someone may say, hey, I could not even, I had an oxygen tank. I couldn't even use it because of this. We need to be able to hear some of these concerns. And so when someone's in stress, you can say, give them 2 minutes, but I think it would be best to go 20 minutes. Just my personal opinion on that.
I'm jumping. I was going to talk about this a little later in the agenda. My hope for these meetings was that we could do fewer, longer ones, just because I think scheduling, given what people do, can become a problem. Would you take as a compromise something saying like, we'll decide in the comment period, but it's never more than 10% of the length of the meeting?
I would say that would be hard for the public to understand. I would say.
I know. I'm saying we would set. No, we'll set the time. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I understand your point completely about not sort of taking up the entire meeting with that.
Yeah. No, I would say it may be difficult for the public to understand, or for staff to judge relative to the time of the meeting that it's a certain percentage. I respect and appreciate the point made about people needing to vent. I would say they have already done that in the Metro Council's inbox for many weeks. I know that is not available to every member here, but I think that is why Ms. Porterfield and myself are here. Council did have a special called meeting, and so there have been other opportunities in that regard. We always want to be very open, but I think the establishment of the email really cures against the time for public comment. And I will tell you, even when we have a lot of contentious things going on and we think, wow, a whole lot of folks are going to show up for public comment with the window that we have, there are nights where absolutely it is maxed out, there's a wait list. There are other times when we think, wow, this is a really contentious moment, and we have 4 or 5 people to sign up. Maybe we could start with 20 minutes, see how it goes, and then if we're not seeing, I think maybe better to start, to your point, with more rather than less.
Yeah, my own experience in these has been that there tend to be a lot of comments at the outset, but it falls off pretty rapidly after that. People have said what they want to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I would go with a shorter time frame. Having served on TVA, we had public comments each time, and people begin to repeat themselves. And I think what the public wants more than anything from this task force is to accomplish something. And so our time is going to be limited, and I think we need to be spending on concrete proposals.
Okay. Would you accept the notion of starting out the first meeting or two with a 20-minute comment, with the idea of backing that off as we get through that? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm fine with if we want to start off heavy and then adjust it as needed. I also think that we could do, to your point about the percentage, if we are scheduling a 1 hour meeting, that could be 10 minutes of public comment. If it's a 2 hour meeting, that could be 20 minutes of public comment. I think that would, to Vice Mayor's point, it will be more transparent to the public, because if we are saying today that our meetings are going to be 2 hours or 1 hour, then today we will have we will know how long the public comment period is. So I think that I also want to say that with us having that public inbox set up, we're going to give people plenty of opportunities to be able to weigh in and share their concerns. I agree. People have to be able to vent those concerns and those frustrations, and they will also have that opportunity through email.
Okay. So,
Mr. Chair, I got a question. Maybe you guys can give us some guidance. If we receive personal emails to our personal email box, what do you recommend? Do you have any guidance about responding to people, or should we just direct them to eventually to that email inbox?
That's why I would recommend that the commission has an email. I feel like a lot of folks that serve on commissions get put in sort of an awkward spot because we have these public rosters with their individual personal emails. And so I know that Metro has been sort of exploring, aggregated email address gets then dispersed to your individual address, but that creates some challenges. We've also we have some 70 boards and commissions in Metro. And so if you could imagine, Winter Storm Response 1, Winter Storm Response 2, Winter Storm, like that's an orders of magnitude that Metro has not yet engaged. I always, if I receive something at a personal email address that is government business, I forward it into my .gov, just in an abundance of caution. I've been in public service for a while now, so that rarely happens. But when I first started serving in elected office, people would send stuff to my personal email. So I would just say if it pertains to the commission, unless somebody has shared other personal things between, Mr. Vanderpool and your friend or whatever, but yeah, I always, I defer to legal, but I always forward that into, but I have a .gov inbox to forward it into, so
Exactly.
I don't know what legal would advise.
Yeah, I would say until there's an email address set up, I would say direct it to staff, and staff can compile.
Thank you.
and if we receive a personal email about commission business, do we have a legal obligation to forward that to Metro?
It would be a public record, so if there was a public record request, you would have to produce it, but you do not have an obligation to forward it to staff.
I think it would be probably a good practice, I think, to do that. Yeah, okay.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so I think kind of where we've landed is to have today, without the requirement for a sign up, a 10-minute period for any public comments people wish to make. We're going to start out with a 20-minute comment period with, I think, some longer commission meetings, so it doesn't dominate the entire process. And the process is, we'll see, the mayor's office will set up a time ahead of the meeting for people to come, to register, to put down what they want to talk about. And then that is prioritized, if need be, to focus on those who came in first and have things relevant to the business of the commission for that particular day. And we'll remain flexible about, depending on how many we get, whether we adjust those timings up or down. And all of that meets the requirements of the Open Records Act. Okay. So as an approach to it, are we ready to vote on that? I guess.
I was going to ask if you wanted me to make a motion to that effect, or if.
Yeah. I was being casual with your.
Oh no,
please.
that's totally
Go
fine.
ahead, make a motion.
I would move that for the initial public comment today, it is 10 minutes with no sign up. For subsequent meetings, it will be for 20 minutes. And I would specify, if I may, Chair, and that's why I wanted to put it into a motion. For 15 minutes prior to the meeting, I would, council has an immensely long agenda, so we give an hour. But I don't know if staff can give me a nod if that's enough time in the run up to the meeting, like when Kendra, okay, so 20 minutes of public comment. with sign up being 15 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. And I guess to clarify, that would be from 15 minutes to the start of the meeting. And I think.
And would you accept the friendly amendment that the 20 minutes is subject to review, that if we don't need that, we'll change it in the future?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, that's what we're doing. With that, we now enter the public comment period. We have about 10 minutes, and since there was no opportunity to sign up, I would simply ask the people who are in the room here if anyone who wishes to make a comment would raise their hand. Our first public comment is an abject failure, I guess. Okay. All right, so we have no one here today who wants to do that. But as you develop the website and the email address, you'll put that information on here for.
Absolutely, we'll place public comment information on the website.
Okay, great. Kendra has suggested at this first meeting that we use some time to have some reports from some of the people who have been most directly involved with the report. And the idea is here to give a brief overview of the preparation and response to the storms, targeting 10 minutes each. So if you'd please be respectful of that, and Kendra, if you would wave or do this or something when the 10 minutes is up. And this is not the last opportunity we'll have to talk to any of these people, so this is more of a case of just getting a feeling for what people are thinking and what's going on, which we can use to design future questions and future interactions. Could we start? William Swan, who's the director of the Nashville Fire Department and the OEM. Chief?
Thank you. Make sure that you guys can hear me. I think I'm supposed to push this. Can y'all hear me? This one, correct? All right, guys.
There you go.
All right, thank you. So it's an honor for me to be here today. And again, to the committee, much appreciation. I know you guys will do a great job. And it's exciting for me to be here, being the chief of the Nashville Fire Department Office of Emergency Management. This event that took place with significant challenges. It affected not just Davidson County, but regions across Tennessee and beyond. The extreme cold, power outages, and water freezing, it created a complex set of circumstances that required rapid coordination across multiple agencies. But despite these daunting challenges, our office, the Office of Emergency Management, working with such a great team of metropolitan government departments, we're able to overcome a lot of adversities. These experiences will ultimately make us all stronger. And I know that to be the case because that's how we actually become better. When we look at the Winter Storm Fern, we know that these actions and what took place were unprecedented. But as I said, we are public servants, not public perfect. We will be doing after actions. We have already started with the Office of Emergency Management in the Fire Department, and we'll be getting with the rest of the metropolitan government this week to go over some internal things that we have determined. I'll make sure this is right here. Is there? Okay, thank you so much. Gotta be smarter than equipment. All right, so when we look at, from the Office of Emergency Management or any emergency services, there are things that we look at. Number one, during an emergency, priorities is life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation. The four keys to success for all of us: we have to analyze the situation, we make a plan, then we implement the plan, and then we constantly reevaluate the plan to ensure that it is staying up to the task. This cycle helps us be able to just overcome and be able to take care of any issues that we deal with. Also, if you look here at the emergency management cycle, it talks about preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. Those are 4 key things that we look at in every situation that we're going in. So many things that I heard the board talk about earlier that there's going to be things that I'm going to just touch upon because I will be respectful of the 10 minutes. But our objectives were, again, activate the Office of Emergency Management, and then this ensures coordination of multiple agency response. We implemented emergency plans and incident management structures. This is ICS and NIMS. This is a structured way of going about everything. Issue public warnings, alerts, instructions, and preparedness for information. Coordinated evacuations, sheltering, mass care, transportation. Also, it allowed it and required personnel and equipment and mutual aid resources. We prioritized and direct emergency services and critical infrastructure protection. Collected and shared situational awareness, damage needs, and systems status. And then manage public information through Joint Information Center. As we said earlier, it's so important for us to be able to message with one message with multiple units. And then support short-term recovery and continuous government and long-term planning. So when we look at our preparation, what did we do before the storm even happened? We began messaging early. By 1:20, we already start looking at our ESCs. Our ESCs is our emergency service coordinators. They are representatives of each department inside of Metro or outside of Metro. They are either department head or representative of the department head. They are able to make critical decisions in a split notion. So we started messaging, making sure that they were prepared, they understood what storms were coming, making sure that their buildings were prepared, also in their personnel was prepared. We also prepared for public messaging in multiple ways. We started on the 19th. News interviews, on 1:20 we had the mayor roundtable, and then we always use multiple media outlets in making sure that we are messaging right along with our news partners and social media outlets. On 1:22, this was key for us because our public information officers, including the mayor's office, Nashville Fire Department, Office of Emergency Management, Metro Water Services, NDOT, OHS, and Metro PD, we had goal settings. What was our purpose during this messaging? We wanted to make sure that we turned out 2 daily reports. This is important because this is situational awareness reports that we sent these out internally. Also, Metro Council, I heard them completely in understanding, getting out information to give to their constituents. This is very important that we not only put out press releases, but also we did internal messaging that happened twice within every day. We made sure that vehicle and equipment and supply checks was done within metropolitan government. This was important. We made sure that winter weather specific items was procured, making sure that we had cold weather kits to hand out. We even looked at work with Second Harvest for go snack packs that we give out as winter kits. We worked with General Service, Parks, and to get keys before any storm would happen. This has been a great collaboration between Metro Parks and also the fairgrounds. We were able to acquire before the storm even hit. If we needed you, could we depend on you? The absolute yes was given, so we had keys and was able to open up and move quickly. Increased staffing, made sure that our 24-hour dispatch had adequate staffing, and also our EOC as well. And then we activated the virtual command center ahead of time so that agencies could already begin to start putting in information pertaining to their individual departments. The emergency operation part, this is big, and I'm going to be very brief here because it's so much stuff that happened. But we opened fire stations and police precincts to provide shelters from the code. We initiate the process of establishing emergency shelters with food, water, and security. We looked at that as a life safety situation. We did this immediately as the storms came in, and I started Sunday morning by 1 o'clock. We already had established a shelter at the fairgrounds, and 2 more followed. That would not have happened had we had not pre-planned that. Also, coordinated efforts. We worked with TEMA for essential supplies such as water tankers and generators. We collaborated with Metro departments for fueling and clearing ice for first responders. Multi-agent collaboration. We engaged with OEM, fire, police, DEC, sheriff department, schools, WEGOs, and other coordinated efforts where we made significant working groups to not only have shelters but have transportation from the person's home to the shelter and from the shelter back. This did not happen by chance. It was intentionally done, and it was done in a way that within 24 hours we had this set up. The shelters itself, we worked with Red Cross where they ran the shelters. We had the Office of Homelessness, we had Social Services, the Health Department, we had Nashville Fire Department personnel in there working as EMTs and paramedics. We had Metro PD worked as security. We had Life Flight of Vanderbilt EMS, and we also had Ascension EMS to help us have wraparound services. One of the great highlights when we had Red Cross came, it was a natural, it was the nation's natural Red Cross that came. They came in and they was just blown away with how many resources that we had here locally for the shelters. Also, we made sure that working with all of the agencies, we used different types of messaging. We used social media, we used the iPods messaging, and also made sure that we were able to coordinate these efforts on a daily basis. The shelters that we had established, we had, again, the Fairgrounds, Southeast Community Center, Madison Community Center, the Nashville Fire Department Training Center, and also we had the Bellevue Community Center. We used Margaret Allen Middle School for a short moment as well. So again, all of these efforts were put in to make sure that there was no excuse for anyone to be out of place, did not have a place to stay. So when we look just real quick at the warming shelters and how this took place, if we just look at the numbers, a total calls for service for transports, 1,107 calls were made. The total rides that were provided, 1,652. Total overnight stays was 4,702 people. Again, this multiple collaboration would not have we could not have done it without the engagement of so many organizations that I had mentioned earlier.
Chief, I think we're at our 10 minutes now. If you could wind
Okay,
it up.
right. Okay, I'm sorry.
You'll have lots of opportunities.
Yes, thank you so much. So, I'm sorry. So the recovery, this is important for us because with recovery, and this is where we're at now. Our VOAT was activated January the 27th. United Way funds was activated the 28th. Damage assessments, TEMA started the public reporting tool, and OEM worked through the reports. And right now, disaster assessment centers were open Tuesday, February the 10th. They closed February the 21st. And right now, we are actually monitoring the federal review process, and we're working closely with some of our TEMA and FEMA partners so that when we do have the opportunity for them to come back in to do a brick and mortar or to get into communities, we will be there to actually escort them and take them where they need to. And then in closing, the things to remember, I want to say this because everyone was mentioning, and I heard, I think Lalisha Porterfield, Council Lady Porterfield mentioned this. This is what we need to be doing now, preparing for the next event. So not only as we do an after action with our departments, we're going to be asking individuals to do this at your home. Evaluate what's priorities that you need and things that you can do better in order for you to be prepared for the next event.
Thank you, Chief. And the slides that you have, could you provide them to Kendra to distribute?
Absolutely.
Thank you. The next presentation is Brent Freeman, Assistant Director of Metro Water Services. Brent?
Good morning. I want to start by just saying that we welcome the review and the insights from this committee. I also would be remiss if I did not mention that I wanted to specifically recognize the extraordinary efforts made by our employees. Winter Storm Fern placed an extraordinary demand on our water distribution system, but it also is noteworthy that it impacted our collection system as well. Our work teams maintain essential functions at all of our facilities, and I just wanted to start off by recognizing their effort this morning. My comments this morning will focus on three areas: our winter preparations, our storm response, and the lessons that we learned. I specifically want to emphasize the portions about our winter preparations and our lessons learned. Our preparation actually began in October of 2025. We do an annual winterization plan for all of our facilities. This includes a review of our winter supplies and our inclement weather policies. We'll inventory and evaluate our stock of emergency supplies such as salt, MREs, blankets, cots, and bottled water. We also will winterize our plant mechanical systems. We have 118 backup generators at our pumping stations, both water and sewer. We have 11 portable generators that we can stage as needed. We test these weekly and then under load once per month. Both of our water plants can go completely off the grid. We have a 10 megawatt power plant at our Omohundro water treatment plant and a 6.7 megawatt power plant there at our KR water treatment plant. So that gives us some flexibility that many utilities do not have. As we prepared for this event, we began to top off the fuel in our vehicles that we staged throughout the county for our first responders. We placed additional employees on call to respond during the emergency. We staged additional employees at key facilities to ensure that we had continuity of operations. We advised our office personnel to be prepared to work remotely so that they could support our operations. And then finally, we formed additional repair crews in our system services division from qualified personnel from other divisions. This allowed us to actually stand up 11 repair crews, which is a little over double what we typically would maintain during normal operations. In addition, we were able to work with our engineering team and pull contractors from existing contracts after the emergency declaration and stand up an additional 19 contract crews. So in total, we had 30 construction and repair crews that were available at our disposal. Our goal throughout this event was that if there was a water main break, there was no delay in dispatching a construction and repair crew. And fortunately, with the resources that we had in place, we were able to do that. In total, we repaired 178 water main breaks, received a little over 38,000 customer calls, and worked a little over 1,500 emergency work orders over a 2-week period. It's important to recognize that we did not do this alone. We had multiple partners that helped us engage. The police department provided thermographic imagery to help us locate water main breaks in one of our larger pressure zones. We coordinated with NDOT for salt. We had daily check-ins with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation regarding water quality. We worked with OEM and we coordinated with TEMA, and we participated with daily briefings with the media with the mayor's office. And I think it's very important that we recognize that without the contributions of those other agencies, we would not have been able to respond as effectively as we did. Our communications team worked with council and monitored social media to ensure we were responsive to customer and community needs. And I think it's also noteworthy that during this event, at one time we had over 50 generators that we needed to fuel. And the logistics of that actually kind of helps me morph into the second part of, or the third part of my discussion this morning, which is our lessons learned. Our backup power systems are really geared toward operating about 24 to 36 hours without power. So the very first lesson that we learned from this event is we need to lengthen that time. Our telemetry system is what allows us to monitor our water distribution system and our pumping stations. And so our initial takeaway there is, in order to improve our ability to monitor the systems, we're going to replace the lead acid batteries that we have, which give us about 10 amp hours, with lithium iron phosphate batteries. The LiPo batteries will provide an order of 6 to 10 times the battery life that we would be able to get out of those systems. In terms of the generators, we recognize that there are some locations that may need to be served with a stationary generator, that we're relying on a portable. During the storm, access to several locations was severely hindered by the ice, the snow, and the fallen trees. So we're going to make a comprehensive review of those locations to ensure that there are sites that shouldn't be served with a stationary generator and have permanent on-site backup power. We're also assessing some of the access roads to our pumping stations and reservoirs. We're looking at some additional tree trimming. And then in terms of the generator control schemes themselves, currently we don't start and stop those generators once they turn on, because there's no current electrical power, then they stay on. But our pump stations tend to cycle, and so there may be opportunities that we can make that control scheme more fuel efficient, which would decrease the amount of time that would be required for, or decrease the fueling operations required to support those generators. Secondly, we're going to accelerate our valve exercising program. We have over 68,000 valves in our system. Many of these are located in systems that we inherited as metro consolidated local governments. And unfortunately, not all of the valves operate in the same direction. This can lead to confusion for our valve crews. We currently have a program that's currently underway that we're accelerating that will allow us to collect additional valve data that we will push to our field crews, including things like right or left open, the number of turns required for the valve, and then GPS coordinates so that they can find it when it's covered by ice and snow. Thirdly, we learned that we need to enhance the data that's available to our crews by using our CityWorks software to its full potential. This is an ongoing initiative. It will allow us to share data across multiple divisions. Currently, our operations team on the pump station side has access to this information, but we're rolling that out to our system services team that repairs water mains, and they will be fully functional in this system later this year. On the communication side, we recognize that the public-facing outage map needs to include areas that are impacted by system issues. We've actually completed this work, but when the storm started, what we found is that just locating a water main break would not sufficiently communicate to customers that they might have a problem. So we had people that would call and then look at the outage map and say, my problem isn't reflected. So we've changed that map so that it also now shows that there are breaks that are under investigation, and it shows the areas that are impacted by system-wide issues, such as a water pumping station without power. We believe this will provide additional information to our customers, and certainly from our customer call center, it will make their time spent more efficient, because we won't have the repeat calls from those customers that think their outage is not currently being addressed. Finally, I wanted to mention that our director, Scott Potter, has requested that each division conduct a comprehensive lessons learned meeting with staff at all levels. These meetings will allow us to further evaluate additional areas where our system and processes can be strengthened and communications can be improved. I'm incredibly proud of the entire Metro Water Services team and the efforts they made in the past weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'll I'll remind that, Governor, I did serve under you in '94 when that ice storm hit, and this definitely was a more significant impact than at that time. I'll go through. I'm going to try to.
I went from 4 days to 11 days myself, and so it's.
Yeah, this is. I'm going to kind of stay on topic. I know we got 10 minutes. Time will be. Okay. All right. This is just kind of the start of where we started, and I can't say enough about the NDOT team that because we're still in recovery, we're still working 12-hour shifts 7 days a week. So we've not let up since the start of this event. Kind of on the 21st, 22nd, we started running all of our routes and primaries and secondaries and post-secondaries, getting Brian down, getting ready for a typical snow event. We were looking forward to our first snow event. Got a lot of new equipment, really ready, ramped up, all of our workers ready to go. Turned into a little more of an event than we expected. But we did treat 2,700 plus lane miles on the front end of this to be prepared. We were as prepared as we've ever been for any event. Saturday, January 24th, storm response begins. We begin 24/7 operations with crews on 12-hour shifts. I mean, crews worked overnight to maintain road access for emergency services, and we go transit. The problem was, and everybody got familiar with, is that night while we were just working a routine, typical snow, things going well, snow moved into the county, lower temperatures, freezing rain, sleet, kind of changed the whole ball game from how we were responding to this event. Sunday the 25th, tree failures, power outages, signal damage began, so it began us to activate in a completely different manner. And I want to say we've spent a lot of time. We have a lot of tabletops through the year. We do a lot of preparation. We had contracts in place. We were ready to evaluate the situation, get things organized, and start deploying things. So we worked closely with NES, OEM, Stansel Electric, Tetra Tech, Crowder Gulf. Those are contracts that we had in place ready to go. Monday we started debris removal in extreme cold temperatures. This is where I really, in my 30 plus years, I try to explain how important it was that we did get out ahead of this, because if you've seen the roads that received treatments prior to the temperatures we got into were cleared. They were passable. Emergency services were able to get where they needed to go. So it made a big difference in our response efforts. Where trees crossed the roads, we had power lines, things impacted. That was an issue throughout that week because of the extreme temperatures. FEMA category A and B, once we identified what we had, we went out and identified we already had pre-selected multiple TDM sites for all over the county. Once we determined this was a county-wide event, we literally had to set up temporary disposal sites in 4 different locations to be prepared for this. TDEC worked with us very closely and quickly to get these sites up, approved, permitted, so we were able to get that operation underway. We at that point went out and done a countywide infrastructure assessment where we evaluated countywide all the signs, signals, delineators, speed cushions, pavement issues, potholes, sidewalks, bike lanes, any and everything out there. We had over 11,000 items identified on that first assessment. Took us 3 days to get that first assessment completed. On the 29th, additional state and national, we had state and national support arrives. That's where we had NES, TDOT, TEMA, Tennessee National Guard, TDEC. All those folks moved in. We had a strategic plan of how to get out and get the roads open with what we call, you'll see in a lot of this presentation talking about push crews. That's where we organized push crews. First priority for this city was to get everything up for emergency services. So we come in, we got push crews in, we started opening up the streets, not removing debris, just clearing the streets where we could. And that's where we worked closely with NES, supported them because a lot of the trees and power lines had electrical lines in them. So we had to, consider our safety and our men's and women's safety in the field. So we worked very closely with them so that to help them restore that. Friday, January 30th, peak tree removal and operations just continue. We had 46 cutting crews deployed at that point. 900 plus tree removal responded. Tennessee Guard's still with us, supporting us, along with a lot of other partners. We had TDOT out that had come in and brought multiple crews helping us with the push efforts. That's just a matter of opening the streets and roads. 31st, continued debris removal, power restoration support, 1,200 plus trees, 80 plus vegetation crews. We're ramping things up. And you'll hear me talk about, as I meet and discuss with this commission, I had a lot of questions about why not bring in more trucks to get more things out of the way. There is a systematic way this has to be done. You can only do so much before you get bottlenecked at either the TDM site or the final disposal site. So it's a very strategic laid out plan that went very well for us. Sunday the 1st, just kind of going over ongoing debris removal, infrastructure assessments, 1,600 plus signal impacts. Monday, February 2nd, 4,600 trees. At that point, we had 83 crews out. Emergency pothole repairs began at that time. We still had ice-covered streets in the rural areas at that point. A lot of streets we still couldn't clear due to the down trees and with the mixed-up power lines. We're still working closely with NES. I don't think, I've looked at a lot of different ways, and you'll see me talk about at the very end of things maybe we've identified. We've already kind of had some of our after-action review in departmental where we've discussed things, and we're always looking for additional improvement. But at this point, we're in here at this point, we're still in here 24 hours a day. Things are going well as far as getting things accomplished. Debris removal progress, pothole repairs continue, 5,200, 80 plus crews. This is just a kind of an overview of February the 9th through February the 12th, the amount of vegetation being removed from this city. Peak collection, kind of a heat map here that shows by February 15th, we're up to 350,000 cubic yards collected in the right-of-way. Sustained operations, debris collection. These are things still going on today. Right-of-way clearing, hazard removal. This is kind of from the start of February 9th to February the 22nd. And I think we're kind of at the peak of how we're picking up debris and getting it off of the right-of-way and being able to dispose of it in a safe and proper manner. Key partnerships, NES, Tennessee National Guard, TDOT, Tetra Tech, the VOAD group, Crowder Gulf, work closely with all those. Can't thank OEM enough for their organizational skills. This is just a quick response timeline overview. You can kind of look through that and see what was accomplished in those short periods. But at this point, as of this morning, we have picked up 542,720 cubic yards. That's just kind of put it in perspective, that's 45,000 dump truck loads of debris. Removed 13,749 tree and leaners. So those are actually safety hazards that's hanging over the road or hanging into the road. This is kind of my after-action review just this far. I know there's going to be a lot to come, but there were things that were easy for us to identify, to say enhanced GIS software capabilities, real-time mapping and performance. The mayor had asked me last year about we would like to have some more interface of not just this type of event, but just typical snow and ice event to where you can see where the trucks, where they've been, what they've done. So we're right in the process of implementing those things at this time. And then, build upon the strong interagency storm response coordination with NES, MMPS, TDOT, TEMA, VOAD. Those are ways that I want to consistently, improve those values. Pre-identify and pre-permit additional temporary debris sites. We got to think about this won't be the last time. While it may have been 30 years, this won't be the last time. So we need to be better prepared for the next time. And the rest of those things kind of allude to how we can do that. Strengthen long duration operational staffing plans by incorporating prearranged staff accommodations and rotation strategies to maintain continuous 24/7 for the staff that's come in here and worked for a month straight. These staff have come in for the first 14 days. We were on 24 hours a day. So we've got to be a little bit better prepared moving forward to accommodate staff that are going to come in here. And in that situation, some of our staff members didn't have the ability to go back and forth home. They had to bunk around the shop. I would like to be better prepared to put those employees up. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Teresa? I thought you would have gray hair by now.
I finally took a moment to cover it, so yeah, certainly a lot of gray hair. Good morning. Well, I guess we're approaching afternoon now, but good morning, everyone. I appreciate being here. I'm Teresa Broyles-Applin, President and CEO of Nashville Electric Service. I too want to commend our employees who did nothing less than total Herculean effort to bring power back to our customers. I also want to just quickly introduce some of our subject matter experts that are present with me. I don't know if we'll have a lot of time for Q&A today, but they will be resources as we move forward to answer questions of the individuals on the commission. I have Alicia Johnson, who has been newly promoted into Interim Vice President of Customer Relations. Brad Heck, who's our Vice President of Operations of our Transmission Distribution. Daniel Johnson, our Vice President of Engineering. And I also have Brent Baker, who is our Chief Operations and Innovation Officer. Before I will provide you with a synopsis of the impact the storm had on our system, the lessons we learned, and quite frankly, how much it tested us and our restoration capabilities through this process, I would be remiss and would like to dive in briefly to acknowledge that we did not meet the expectations of our customers through this storm. Through this storm, we did not provide the level of service and communications that our customers have come to expect from NES. We've historically had really good reliability. We've improved communications over the years. We were unable to deliver that through this storm. We have turned our focus to ensuring that we are ahead going forward, that we are ready no matter what Mother Nature brings at us, whether it's a 34-year storm or not. We as an organization need to be ready for that. And there's really only one path forward. Learn quickly, improve sincerely, and ensure that we are ready for whatever comes. Internally, I've outlined a 4-pillar plan. So we have, the board is commissioning an after-action review. We're working with this commission, but then we've already outlined a 4-pillar plan internally that are things that I've recognized we need to be moving forward on. A lot of those were initiatives that were already underway, including estimated restoration time process improvements, grid hardening, strategic undergrounding. We had a lot of technology for vegetation management. We had a lot of those things already in flight. Meanwhile, this storm revealed a lot of things from an emergency management perspective where I feel like there are weaknesses and things we can improve as we move forward. Between our work with this commission, the 4 pillars, and ultimately the after action that our board is commissioning, we will be faster, stronger, better at storm restoration when we are done with all of these processes. And that's even if we're faced again with a strong storm of this magnitude. At peak, more than 230,000 of our customers were without power. This was an ice storm of historic proportions. It coated almost all of our service territory in a strict sheet of ice, which made it very difficult for us to get around and restore power. We had significant damage. It's the biggest ice storm we've had since the 1994 storm. We had high winds that followed the storm, which was unique. As the last round of freezing rain was departing our service territory, we had high winds that took down even more trees following that. And the combination of those circumstances resulted in the largest number of customers we've ever had out in our service territory. The storm far exceeded more damage than we've ever expected or experienced. It was much more akin to a system rebuild than it was a storm restoration with the level of infrastructure that was torn down. We have roughly 5,600 miles of power lines on our system that we have to maintain. 4,800 of those are above ground lines. After a major weather incident such as this one, we have to send out teams to determine what's broken. How many spans of wire do we have down? How many broken poles do we have? How much vegetation do we have to cut through to get there? The traditional means of doing that is personnel on the ground. So people out looking at the damage to do assessments and entering that into the system to feed back to crews so they know what they're facing when they get there and what materials to bring with them. Winter Storm Fern brought increased challenges to that process because of the extreme cold temperatures, road conditions, trees continuing to fall for several days. So it was not a storm that occurred and was gone. It continued to break things. So even at that, we would do damage assessments. Days later, we would get out there, there's more broken at that point. Those damage assessments revealed around 800 poles were severely damaged and required replacement. Once again, the most in NES history. The level of damage, again, was more akin to a rebuild than a restoration effort. Our communication technology, such as our texting platform, was not prepared for a scenario like this. We had recently stood up our texting platform. We had 11 million views and reports to our outage map. 11 million. 83,000 calls to our call center and 2.3 million outage text messages. This sort of stress test to our system happened in real time, and unfortunately, our customers experienced it right along with us. We are currently taking steps to simplify the outage reporting process, to improve these technologies that touch our customers during an outage, and improve overall dependability of the real-time outage information that's provided. We are launching a neighborhood view overlay on our outage map in the next few days. We've also been working through improvements to our critical referrals program for customers that have special needs. Despite challenges with assessment and communications, we are grateful to our metro, state, and other city and county partners who prioritized coordinating with us. They provided incredibly valuable resources and assistance. While I understand this commission will provide an assessment within the next 6 months, we need to be prepared for spring storm season, which is why we are tooling and internally looking at the 4 pillars to see how we can improve. Each week we will be announcing progress that we're making on those pillars. We have teams working on each of those areas right now, and I'd like to touch on the areas of focus. The first being emergency response, our emergency response planning. We intend to have a process, an incident command structure network that is fully scalable to any type of disaster and can respond quickly. You may have heard that we mobilized 1,900 line workers on our system during storm restoration for this. That is more than 5 times our normal line worker workforce. Integrating them into our system was difficult. I want to ensure that we can mobilize faster and integrate efficiently and get everyone running full speed in the case that we have another disaster of this scale. Second, we will address communication outages, communications, outage information, and outage technologies. We are conducting a comprehensive review of all of our storm-related communications, everything that went out, and our outage information tools to ensure we're able to provide accurate and timely information to our customers. And as you probably understood from what I mentioned with how many times our outage map was pinged, it was overwhelmed and very slow. Customers were trying to report their outages via the map, and that wasn't functioning. The outage map data was accurate, but the response time was very slow. We have already shored up the volume challenges that were there, and we're working through providing more valuable information to customers. Third, we will improve estimated restoration time practices. This was the long pole in the tent in giving customers restoration times was the field visits, the damage assessments that we had to do that I mentioned earlier. But we're already looking at ways that we can do this a little differently, even taking a recommendation to our board later this week that we look at some additional technologies and LiDAR data that would help us get out in the field and evaluate damage assessment much faster than having personnel out there trying to evaluate levels of damage. This pillar is also essential to other organizations and agencies such as OEM in doing their jobs, because if we can provide more timely and accurate restoration times, then they know what type of assistance needs to be provided in the community. So to me, this is an incredibly important pillar. Fourth, we will assess resiliency, undergrounding, and vegetation management. A lot of these were already in process at the point that we were stricken with this crisis. Now it's just a focus of the entire community that we get this done. We've initiated a comprehensive evaluation of our system. We will complete a system-wide undergrounding study. We have already identified strategic undergrounding locations. That was underway prior to the storm. Now it's clearly more of a focus for our community. We have also spent a great deal of time evaluating our tree trimming program following the storm. With this storm, we had an enormous number of whole tree failures, and those trees that looked like they exploded and they split apart in very unpredictable ways. However, a more aggressive tree trimming approach is typically very effective in mitigating damage from spring wind storms. So this is a priority to us. We are utilizing technology to assist us with risk-based evaluation of our trees. It may also identify just some structural things that may be out there besides tree risks. We are also planning on moving forward with a more aggressive tree trimming approach to ensure that we are getting the clearance that we need around our lines. I look forward to working with each of you on these pillars and a lot of the other agencies and friends that have provided support as we move forward. In the meantime, our team is working on an outing for the council people to come hear a little bit more about our system, how our restoration efforts work, and hear about the improvements we've made under the 4 pillars. I would like to invite this commission to join us if time would allow at the point that we get those dates set later in March. And that concludes my prepared comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. I have a few things I've noted down during the course of this. I'd kind of like to go over. Number one, I've watched from the outside over the years the relationship of the city and the state kind of come apart, and I think this is an opportunity to maybe do some rebuilding of that trust. And as I was going to suggest that I would like to send to the appropriate people of the state kind of a short description of what was discussed here today. I mean, 1 or 2 pages, no more than 2. I've never met a legislator who wanted to read more than 2, so and so on. So, Kendra, could I ask you to look at that? And I'd like to ask you to talk with Beth about exactly who should receive this and kind of what are the most important things to incorporate. But I think if we do that, it's an opportunity to help try and rebuild some of the relationship that it's obviously important for the city to have. So, Beth, are you willing to do that? Okay, good. And that should go to the state over the commission's signature, not the mayor's office. But if you could get that done fairly promptly, I would appreciate it. Second of all, scheduling future meetings. And my own preference is to schedule fewer, longer meetings. I think this is a group which is probably difficult to get schedules worked out. It certainly is for me. I guess what I'd like to ask is maybe if people on the commission could communicate with Kendra, at least make blocks of time which they know they're not going to be available. If you've got vacation planned for the first week in July, let's write that down. Let's say between now and July 30th. Just those blocks of times. It doesn't need to be great detail. You don't need to know about every doctor's appointment you have or anything like that. But just if you've got blocks that are just not available, I think that helps in the planning, and I would appreciate your doing that. Are there quorum requirements for this commission?
Yes, I would say 50% plus one. So I believe is it 9 members? So 5 members.
So 5 members for a quorum. And you also told me that virtual appearance is not permitted, so we need actually to make that work. All right, if you do that, and then Kendra, you and I can talk about how we schedule the meetings going forward. Third of all, that I wrote down is I'd like to do this with limited formality. I mean, we've been using a kind of a Robert's Rules of Orders thing, but not really strict in terms of that. Let's see how that works. I think having some structure to it gives people confidence that we're doing our job. But oftentimes convening around the table and talking works better than all the kind of formalities, and I would like to try and see if we can't conduct our business in that fashion. I believe you said there's minutes being taken of these meetings, and if you could just distribute those to each of the members as soon as is reasonably possible, I would appreciate it. And I would also make an invitation to you, and I think this is okay, but I want to make sure and check, that after having had the experience now of a couple hours of us being together and hearing some of these kinds of things, if anyone cares to write me an email, copied to Kendra maybe, about just like, here's my thoughts after that first meeting about things we ought to be thinking, where I think the direction is right, where I think it's wrong or something, but about the process we're going through, things that ought to be tackled. I would find that personally very helpful in terms of helping to structure this going forward. And similarly, if there are resources that you feel you need in addition to what we're already planning on doing here, that would be good to incorporate in something like that. I certainly want anyone to feel free. We can't deliberate anything, but I want people to feel free to, at any point, just send to me saying, I think this isn't working this way, or I think we need to add this kind of thing in. That kind of thing would be very, very helpful. I think there's no issue with, as far as I understand, no issue with someone doing that kind of a thing. And if it's copied to Kendra, it becomes part of the public record, and so there's no issue there. And last of all, when do you think the website will be available?
The website specifically for the commission?
For the commission, yeah.
Yeah, the website for the commission is already available. I think something that may take a little bit longer is if we want more of a website where we're storing documentation for the commission. But the website is already available today.
Yeah, I just want to make sure there's something, I'm talking about a public-facing website.
Yes, it's already available.
Where we can do that. Okay, and is there an email address for people to send comments up there now?
There is not right now, but we'll get one added in the same spirit of what we discussed today.
Okay. Do you have any remarks as we close?
Yeah, just a few brief items just to conclude and sort of echo what you mentioned. I'll be sharing minutes and notes as well as the slides with you all after this, and a link of the recording so that you guys can go back and reference afterwards as well, and we'll get those a portion of those items onto the website as well. We have already taken a look at the public hearing, the special called council meeting, and so we have some notes and some questions that have been shared by the public as well as council members, and so an overview of what was discussed is something that I'm happy to share with this group if you all would find that helpful. And then we've been compiling internally a list of questions that we've heard sort of over the duration of the event and its recovery. And so those are resources that, again, are not intended to be prescriptive, but to sort of help in addition to the presentations that you heard today, help potentially structure some of the conversation. We'll be sharing those items afterwards as well. The last item I'll note is that I will be sharing with this small group contact information for each of you all, but if there's a specific phone number or email address that you want referenced that you haven't already shared with me, please do that so that I know I can update that. And again, that's more for your all's purposes of communicating with one another, but if I don't hear from you, I will continue to use the email address that I've been using to reach you. That's all I've got.
Anything else? For the commission members, anything you would like to add? Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I did appreciate your ask for, an email, anything kind of following up subsequent to our notes and so forth. I think it is particularly challenging for something that is this complex and multifaceted in the constraints that we have through kind of open meetings, right? How do we make sure that we have sort of all of the same information, and as we move forward, kind of what thresholds are we giving ourselves, what questions are we asking, how are we kind of level setting on expectations when folks kind of show up here. So, as I look at my notes, obviously nobody was particularly prescriptive about what was required, but there was a wide diversity of information shared in these presentations, right? So what was clear is that relative to each other, some were very kind of database, data heavy. I'll have a slideshow to go back that I can refer to. Some were verbal, less specificity. And so I guess I just wanted to ask with Ms. Abkowitz, I appreciate that she did also watch that special called meeting of the council. But, I already have a lot of questions based on what I heard today. And as we go into kind of the next meeting, I presume Chair will just sort of kind of aggregate what we've learned today, and then as far as like setting the agenda next time and kind of what the expectation is on the questions that we want to be able to be answered, or the manner in which we will make sure that's constructive, right? I think I'm hoping maybe we can get some guidance on the backside of this meeting or prior to the next one, so that kind of I know best how to show up to make constructive use of that time. And what I understand, in my capacity as the president of the council, I have been somewhat of a funnel for an immense number of concerns and suggestions. And, I want to do my duty by making sure every elected official has that, place for that to sort of live in a productive fashion. And so, we've had a special call meeting at council, so I think there's a whole lot of things that are tracking next to each other, after actions, internal, and I want to understand, for things that are metro products, I know there's some security concerns maybe in a few spaces, but where do those after actions live? How can we refer to them? If they're happening internally now, I'm grateful. I appreciate it. You want that to happen very soon after something happens. How do we access that for our reference relative to our recommendations, right? So where do these folks that came to report to us today, right, kind of what's the funnel for that? What's the process for that to make sure that we're getting it in a constructive order?
Thank you, Chair. I echo several things that Vice Mayor said. I have a list of questions that we don't have time to obviously speak into the universe today. It was my hope that it could be spoken into the universe and we could have some answers by the next meeting just based on the presentation that was given. What I am going to do is I will send this list of questions to Kendra, and I will send it directly to each department. I will CC Kendra on it, but I would love for the opportunity for the next meeting if we could just kind of speak that into the room and give those individuals the opportunity to respond to that. Didn't expect any answers today. I know people need time to prepare, but I do think that it is prudent that we're able to get those questions out on the record. And then my only other thing was just a quick suggestion. Love the idea about the letter from the commission to the state with the update. My only recommendation would be if that could be a letter in which you as the chair are kind of saying, hey, this is the commission, this is the work that we're doing. We're going to update you after every meeting, and then here are the minutes from that meeting. So almost like an introductory letter in addition to those minutes. So, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, the presentations today were not designed to be substantive in the sense of we'd have, I mean, I had lots of questions, you know, too, that are obvious and so on. Look, I see my job as chair here is trying to figure out how to take what is a very complicated situation with a lot of different players and put some structure around it so that we can have productive meetings and we can ultimately come up with some suggestions that are, you know, that are meaningful. So if you will give me the time between now and the next meeting and feedback information to me as I asked and so on, I'll come back prepared with, I think, a much better sense of exactly how we should go about doing this. But I certainly, as I say, welcome any thoughts you might have. Not so much, here's my questions about what somebody said, but more about, you know, these are the kinds of big things I want to get on the table, and you know, what's the scope of what we're doing, those kinds of issues. Okay, any other comments or thoughts? Thank you all for your.
You got one over there.
I'm sorry, I didn't see. You should just hit.
No, I should have. No, Mr. Chair, I just want to thank all the departmental leaders that came out today and present this. You know, it's when you're in a community and my power's back on, we got heat, things are moving on. It's good to hear that, like NDOT and you guys still pushing 12-hour shifts, right? We are still in recovery mode. So I appreciate this from a community member, Davidson County resident. Thank you very much. I appreciate all this, and I know we're going to get deeper into this, but thank you for coming out on this first meeting with the commission, and thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we leave, would it be possible for the
Sorry, yes.